What up, gang? It is Crux here with Crux of Crypto, and I'm here to bring you the daily update every Tuesday and Thursday bringing the alpha at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And today we have a fairly neutral day. I whipped out the neutral lights. Typically, I do red if it's bearish, green if it's bullish, but today we're pretty neutral, so I just went with whatever color I wanted. I'm rocking a Bitcoin shirt. I got a little bit to talk about with MicroStrategy today. I got some Trump news on some of our taxes may possibly be exempt going into next year. So I'll break that down for you. And then also we got the ISM cycle that's possibly just going to be front running the crypto 4-year cycle and could be breaking it. So a lot of people are talking about Q2, Q3, and even Q4 of 2026 being the peak of this bull market. And don't take my word for it. I'm going to allow others to break it down for you. So if this is your first time, I am Crux. I'm a fundamental analyst. I break down projects, and I try to get ahead of all the projects with an unbiased take. I do have my favorites, and I'll be honest. But what I do is I take all the community members' comments for the most part, and I break them down the best I can, just so we understand which projects are worth getting into. I think I'm basically the opposite of a maxi. We all know what maxis are. I'm the opposite. I want crypto to thrive, and I don't want any clear winner to win. So that being said, I will admit Bitcoin is king. So rocking the shirt today. And again, smash that like and subscribe. And if it's your first time here, welcome. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the trending cryptos of the day. And then I'll jump into some Q&A. So start posting those questions you have today. First up, we have Beldex. This is a privacy-focused blockchain network. About to get to the top 100. I'll be honest, I'm not sold on these privacy networks. ZK Proofs is on fire right now. If you know anything about blockchain technology, we're looking at how you're able to transact without recipients, without knowing recipients or seeing the transaction amount sent. So there's a lot of good behind what privacy networks are capable of doing. But Beldex is essentially it's a copy and paste of Monero, though it is proof of stake instead of proof of work. So that's something to consider. I personally like proof of work networks. They're just way harder to get off the ground, but they're better for decentralization purposes. And, I'm tired of these copy and paste cryptos. I'd rather just go buy a Zcash, for example. As you can see, that crypto is also trending. So, privacy narrative, it's on fire. Another privacy token is Midnight. So, Midnight, they focus themselves on not only being a privacy network, being a secure network that is helping Cardano, because right now it's considered native to Cardano, and eventually they'll drop their layer one, probably in 2026, if I'm not mistaken. But a couple days ago, they did their airdrop, which is why it's trending. And over time, people are going to continue to get these free tokens from participating in, I think it was like 12 different blockchains from Solana to XRP down the line. And if you just had your native crypto within a native wallet, you're eligible for this airdrop. So a lot of people are getting these tokens and they are selling. So you'll see very volatile. I think yesterday it was up like 60% in a 24-hour period. The day before that it was down 60%. And today we see it's down 33%. So I'm not rushing to the fences to buy any Midnight, but I do believe that Cardano is going to need to have an option to help scale it. It's already super secure and decentralized. I think the scaling part is probably Cardano's biggest weakness, but also the adoption piece. So those are going to be the two biggest pieces. And Midnight's able to fix that. And eventually Midnight will start focusing on its own layer one and then bridge out as a side chain to other networks where they can function as a separate interoperability side chain. Moving on, we got Ethereum, which is trending because, well, I'll be honest, I love Ethereum. I think it is. Well, first of all, it has about 70% of all the TVL and crypto combined, which is insane. You're talking about Solana, Bitcoin. Well, I mean, Bitcoin has a little bit of TVL in there, but you have Binance Smart Chain, you have Base Network. All of these blockchains have billions of dollars in TVL, but you're looking at the mega blockchain, the one responsible for getting smart contracts adopted. And they just released their Fusaka hard fork upgrade, which helps with blobs, which essentially deals with data throughputs and also enables easier efficiencies within layer 2 scaling solutions. So Ethereum is on fire right now. I appreciate what they're doing over there. And I think it's a lot of people FUD it, but I mean, we will see going forward from here. BitTensor Tau has a halving event on the 14th. So in 3 days, BitTensor Tau, my favorite AI project in all of crypto, is going to be doing the same halving event that Bitcoin has. So everyone knows Bitcoin has 23 million Bitcoin that'll ever exist. Every 4 years, they have this halving event, and this will be Tau's first halving event. So Tau is very responsible for artificial intelligence subnets, which allow you to do things like AI agent creation, large language models, and such. Very bullish on Tau overall. If you don't have any Tau, what are you doing? Next up, we have Solana, which secured a $50 million contract, essentially from two big dogs. You're talking JP Morgan and you're talking Franklin Templeton. So I like both of those names. They're big hitters in the space, and I love Solana. So keep pushing forward, Solana. Bitcoin is trending because it's a big dog. It is the king of crypto, and everybody wants to know, where is Bitcoin headed? About $92,000 right now. So don't continue to refresh your charts, beating yourself up. I think, I mean, we went as close as like 93K like a week ago. So we are up and right quite a bit. Maybe this was a pre FOMC pump. FOMC was a fairly neutral day. And then, I don't know, the next major catalyst, I don't know it off the top of my head, but expect crypto to be fairly volatile from here. Monad. The Monad's another crypto I've been telling people for a while I would stay away from this one. This is a copy and paste network. They don't bring anything new to the table. They work kind of similar to a Sui. I'm pretty sure they use Rust as opposed to Sui's Move programming language. But yeah, so whenever projects launch with billion-dollar valuations, for example, I like to definitely stay away from those. Monad sitting at about like 300 million market cap currently. And again, they didn't bring anything new to the table. I need an Oracle like a Chainlink or a smart contract platform like an Ethereum. I need an innovator if I'm going to invest in you. And Monad has not delivered. So we will see. Pippin is a meme token. And I know a lot of you guys hate memes. I like memes, honestly. I think there's a way you can value social sentiment. I'm not going to say I like Pippin, though. But this is a Solana-based meme coin. It's some weird little JPEG that was created for like a unicorn picture. I don't know. But we know in crypto, these meme communities, they come, they go. So if you're going to play with something like this, you're playing with fire. I would not hold on for too long. So moving on, we got Cysic, I think is how you say it, CYSIC. This has something to do with, right. This has something to do with ZK proofs. Right. Oh, okay. So, for example, I talked about Tau. Tau really specializes in all things AI, but I think their biggest component or biggest target is large language models. And then you have something like a render, which allows you to lend out your 3D computing power. Then you have something like an Aether, which is an open marketplace for GPU sharing and cloud sharing. Same thing with the not Aether, but a Akash. So there's all these different networks that are doing something similar, but not exactly the same. And then Cysic is doing this with ZK proofs. So ZK proofs, again, zero knowledge proofs, is something that's been around for about 25 years at this point. And it's only first finally getting adopted through mainly Zcash. That's like the big dog that's really getting its name out there. But just think of it as a way to send crypto or data from one person to the next, and nobody knows who sent it or how much. So it's a feature to a token, and I would not identify a blockchain as a ZK or like it's kind of like saying Ethereum is a smart contract blockchain. At this point, it is a feature to the blockchain, but it's not just a smart contract blockchain. It does tons more other things. So I don't like people saying it's a privacy blockchain. It's a feature. And most blockchains like Solana and Sui all have privacy built into them. All right, moving on, we got Hyperliquid. I have a story for you guys with Hyperliquid. And the whale, the infamous whale in October is back. So what is he doing? Stay tuned. Crux will bring you the alpha. And then last but not least, we have Stable, which is a layer one network responsible for kind of similar to the STBL token I covered about 3 months ago, who's backed by Reeve Collins, who is the co-founder of Tether, which is the biggest stablecoin in the world. I think they're pushing like $200 billion in stablecoin liquidity. So Tether's the big dogs. I invest in visionaries, and if Reeve Collins can create the next stablecoin base layer, I'll invest into that one. But this is a different network. Stable, very similar though. A layer one They focus on stablecoins. They don't want all these JPEGs and all these things cluttering their network. So they focus on, I just want the value of a dollar to be, swapped from one network to another or from one address to another address. So that's kind of how stablecoins work. Think of them very similar to just dollars in general. They're just typically backed by something which could be a real world asset. It could be an actual dollar, or it could be maybe a commodity like gold. So that's something to consider. All right, very long-winded there. In about 10 minutes, I got through all those trending cryptos, and it's time to show you guys some attention. All right. Peace, says Carl. What up? Just a good afternoon. Wrong again. Zcash is the new Bitcoin. Look, wrong again. You might get your moderator status revoked for saying that. He just said Zcash is the new Bitcoin. Crux does not sign off on that. But Crux has said some pretty crazy things, so take that with a grain of salt. Blazin Bandit. Shout out, Blazin. What up, Crux? Appreciate you, my dude. Yeah, thank you, man. Good afternoon, says Aaron. I see a lot of OGs in chat. Bitcoin is saying Zcash is Bitcoin plus ZK. I mean, I guess. So I saw Hal Finney. If you know anything about Hal Finney, he is the first person that Satoshi Nakamoto has ever sent Bitcoin to, and he's the only person you could link directly to Satoshi Nakamoto. This guy 25 years ago was giving a presentation on ZK proofs. So, did Zcash create ZK proofs? No, they didn't. Did Bitcoin create peer-to-peer networks? No, they didn't. They are responsible for getting them adopted, but the technology was created. And other networks, they failed, Digibyte, etc., trying to get these things evolved. But you have to respect adoption. So I did a deep dive onto Zcash, and I started explaining why I would not, why I'd personally own 75 cryptos and I own no Zcash. And I talk about Barry Silbert, I talk about Tyler Winklevoss, I talk about Arthur Hayes, I talk about the big dogs in crypto and how I believe they're personally manipulating them. And I look at the ICO, I look at the $1 million Barry Silbert put into Zcash prior to launch, which through a 4-year drip process going into about 2020, those guys got their tokens. And spoiler, they were not happy when they got them because the price was down big time. Most of it crashed in the first couple weeks, but overall, I think Zcash is not brilliant technology or anything. It's just a fork of Bitcoin. That's what I see at this point. XMR is not ZK tech. Right, XMR is not ZK tech. I say XMR. So the difference between a Zcash and an XMR is XMR or Monero, it forces you to, all your transactions must be private. But with ZK rollups, or ZK proofs rather, these allow you the optionality of being able to allow people to see who sent it and how much they sent. And only 20% of the transactions on Zcash are shielded. So if your technology is so good, maybe you can answer this wrong again. If you are identifying as a privacy network and you created shielding, then why do only 20% of the transactions have privacy enabled? I think that's a fair question. All right. Good afternoon, says Aaron. Wrong again. Monad too high. FDV. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would stay away from Monad big time. Red equals Alpha Oracle Network. Daniel Pearson. Good day, Crux. What up, Daniel? Good day, Gem Hunters. Why is Sapien pumping? Is Sapien pumping? Yeah, so Sapien's a play we've been talking about in the Gem Hunters for a couple months at this point. It is an AI network built on the built within the base ecosystem. And I'll be honest, Q2 going into 2025, 6 months ago or so, Base was on fire. I mean, Base is still on fire. They're still bridging Solana into their ecosystem and doing some pretty hot stuff over there. But Base was on fire, and they've since cooled off. And really, the cool off was from crypto as a whole. So, what I don't like when people do in crypto is they see something like, for example, Kaspa's down, and they'll say Kaspa is the worst cryptocurrency, but then they refuse to see all these other cryptos are down too. So what I do as an analyst is if everything is going up and right, but your crypto isn't, then I'm gonna hold it against you. But if everything's going down and right, it is what it is. It's not just because Tau is down 60%, it's a bad project. It's just all of crypto's not doing well. So you just gotta have to wait around. 75 cryptos crux you need to consolidate, says Aaron. I invest in teams and visionaries, and as much as I love Bitcoin, they don't need crux anymore. That network has hit escape velocity, and yeah, so this whole bull market, I've had that mindset. Now, going into the next bull market, I will think more as an investor as opposed to like just a visionary, which is why I talked about the video of acquiring zero point 0.1 Bitcoin could change your life forever. So if you haven't watched that video on my channel, what are you doing? It's a dope video, and I honestly believe that if you're able to acquire just zero point 0.1 Bitcoin in about 10, 20, 30 years, you could create generational wealth with it. All right, let's read a couple more of these and then we'll jump into the big news of the day. Not everyone shields transactions, right? Very few people do. Just 1 out of every 5 transactions are shielded. I hope to see a $6 arrow one day next year, maybe. Bewilled, I think the Coinbase ecosystem, it's just a slow mover. Also, really almost everything Coinbase related is just super centralized and it's heavily invested into. So, for example, before this base token drops, probably in 2026, I can guarantee it's going to drop at a minimum 1 billion to 2 billion market cap, 2 billion minimum. And it's like, why did all these people get access to these tokens for pennies on the dime, and then I get dumped on? So also we speak so highly about Coinbase, it's barely even a top 10 exchange by trading volume. So all these other networks are running circles around it, like a Binance, an HTX, or maybe a Huobi. And really, just in the West, we get so fixated on what works for us, what is super user friendly, what is protected, what is regulated, and we go to Coinbase. But honestly, if we're talking about world currencies, Bitcoin is not a United States currency. It is a world monetary network. Uh, all those exchanges, they exist, and I don't think we should be fighting them out. So I like Coinbase, but you are not the biggest players in the space. In fact, Binance does about, I want to say, at least 10 times the daily trading volume Coinbase does. And they also have way more tokens, so I like Binance. Do you hold any XCN? I do not, says Unidos. All right. So I see a couple other. Paul Barron was asking for suggestions to go on his show, so I had to nominate the #1 crux. I appreciate it, Aaron. I reached out to Digital Asset News. He's a big name in the space, and who knows, I might actually be able to go on his channel. Paul Barron, I would like to go on his channel too. In fact, I have an article that I'm about to share here in a second with Paul Barron. So I see more questions, but let's go ahead and jump into some news, and then we'll go ahead and kick it off into some more Q&A. So drop your questions in chat. All right, so here's the big dog of the day. You got Donald Trump, and he's saying he is considering ending federal taxes on gambling winning. So, Crux did a little clickbaity, I'll be honest. I said no taxes, but this is specifically on gambling. What we don't want to consider crypto is, an option to gamble with. It is not the same as hitting a button and then 50-50 chance you get a ROI on it. It's not like that. It is an investment that has considered risks, and you have to outweigh those with the pros and the cons. So, but I will say this, with gambling as a whole, I am pro gambling in terms of allowing people to do it, though I do not do it. I consider myself as an investor, and if I go to Las Vegas or wherever else, I'm probably going to be focusing on the food and the environment as opposed to pulling a lever and watching dopamine go up. So here we go with Donald Trump and gambling wins. Now, this is probably bigger in terms of would, that's a good one. Would those like the Powerball or these other mega gambling tickets that get you like $1 billion or something, is that going to be tax free? That would be crazy. So if you won your $1 billion, you keep all 1 billion, and we know you're giving hundreds of millions back right now to taxes. So I think that is how this story right here would definitely blow up. Is you just hear these people and these cool stories, and they get to keep everything. In terms of gambling, is it even really worth it? Because if you think about it, if I flip a coin, it's 50-50. But if I win, I still owe 20, 30, even 40% possibly on the gains of that win. But if I lose, I don't get anything. So like the odds are against you, and I'd rather throw my money into Bitcoin. So story of the day by Bitcoin. Moving on to the next story, we got Paul Barron. We just talked about him. He has an urgent update for us. The market structure bill circulating in the Senate isn't regulatory clarity. It is the ultimate rug pull. So bifolding to Senator Warren, unconstitutional surveillance demand. And then you got Senator Tim Scott and Senator Cynthia Lummis, who are going back against Warren, are effectively handling the future of finance to the bank cartel. So this is the past couple of days, we've had the Democrats and the Republicans going back and forth on this market structure bill. And we have our good friend Eleanor Tourette here to break it down for us. So Democrats are negotiating the crypto market structure bill. Say they've accepted significant portions of the banking GOP's RFIA text, but the GOP's December 4th offer still misses key principle Dems are seeking. The 3-page counteroffer, a copy which is sent to me, lays out their ask of token clarification, illicit finances, ethics, and Genius Act stablecoin yield restrictions. So, we are not out of the woodworks with the Genius Act, and I love stablecoins. A lot of the Democrats, they do have a point in terms of who has access, well, who is running certain instruments. So, for example, you have USD1, which is a Trump-backed stablecoin. Why does the president of the United States have direct access to what could be used as money? I don't know. That's a fair question. So the left is targeting the right and not letting us get what we want in terms of just advancements within crypto regulation. And for the most part, I would consider crypto bipartisan, but we're coming to the part where it's starting to rub me wrong again. And if you paid attention in 2020 and 2021, I would say the left was a little more vocal, especially Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, on Bitcoin being the illicit activity token, or 90% of all transactions are done with fraud on Bitcoin and human trafficking, this, that, and the third. We have a little bit less of that nowadays, but it's seeming to creep back in. So this market structure bill, I think the month of December of 2025 is going to be a big month on Democrat and Republican negotiations with crypto going forward. So that's a lot of knowledge right there in terms of where we're at. But I think it's super important because most people talk about, I don't know, rate cuts and the price of gold and silver prices and all these things, but we refuse to educate ourselves on what is happening on crypto and the legislation going on. This is important, guys, very important. And right now we have a pro crypto administration, and they're backing these people like Senator Tim Scott or Cynthia Lummis. So, all right. I think did I not share that whenever I was given that? Hopefully I did. Anyways, if I didn't, let's move on to the next story. My bad. This is a pretty big one. So Strategy CEO Phong Lee says MSCI, for the proposal to exclude companies holding over 50% of their balance sheet in Bitcoin would unfairly penalize Strategy and other Bitcoin treasury firms. And I agree with this. So we are talking about the biggest financial instruments in the world. ETFs could be linked to the S&P 500 and these big names, right? And you're saying if over 50% of your assets are in digital assets, then you are not allowed to join these ETFs. And to me, that is horrible. It's a horrible proposal, and we're being unfairly targeted. So we go back to this guy who is a CEO of Strategy, and he's making a stance. I know Michael Saylor has briefly talked about it. Oh, okay, here we go. So yeah, Michael Saylor actually signed out a document yesterday and pushed it out, talking about we are being unfairly targeted. And again, I agree with them. And if you know anything about MicroStrategy, that's the biggest Bitcoin treasury company in the world, and I believe it's always going to be. They're pushing about 650,000 Bitcoin. And if you don't know anything about MicroStrategy, don't worry, because your boy Crux is here to break it down for you. And this video will drop tomorrow. So I already did the script. I record it right after this live stream. And I tell you, I might have a dollar amount on where MicroStrategy gets liquidated. So that's going to be the big thing everybody wants to know. Going into a bear market, Bitcoin hits 80K, 70K, 60K. The big story is going to be, when does Michael Saylor get liquidated? This happened last bull market as well. So this is not new. Last bull market, the number was about $4,000. We got down to 15.5 and everybody was holding their breath. Please do not get this guy liquidated. And we are going into part 2 of this. So a fun fact about Michael Saylor is he survived the 2000 .com bubble, right? And his company fell 99.9%, and he was able to recover. So of all tech CEOs, he's the last one standing. So is this going to be his second time getting absolutely liquidated as a CEO of a company, or did he learn from his losses? So that's a pretty dope video. Make sure you stay tuned. Tomorrow I'll be dropping it. And all right, so shifting on to the next topic, we'll do this and then I'll jump back into another segment of Q&A. There's two people that are about to talk about the ISM manufacturing index and how this plays in role with Bitcoin and finding the peak. So the first one's going to be Roll Powell, and then I'll show you Tom Lee right after this. And this is probably the biggest accepted theory on how the 4-year cycle breaks. Instead of, for a while people were looking at the M2, now they're starting to say, instead of 4-year cycles, we're going to 5-year cycles. So we're going to go into 2026, Q4 of this year, most likely, or next year, will most likely be the peak. And this is Raoul Pal. He's the one who actually got this theory adopted. Here we go.
We had this perfect 4-year cycle. And this is where everybody's scratching their heads right now. Is what the hell's going on? Has the cycle finished? That's the big question everyone debates all day. And for me, you can see what's happened here. There used to be this perfect 4-year cycle, and suddenly it's changed. Well, what happened here is we've added an extra year. In 2022, at the beginning of 22, rates were still at 0, and they extended the debt maturity by a year to 5 years. So we've got an extra year in the equation. So all of the debts that need to get rolled in 2026 and not 2025. So that's why we've had less liquidity than we've expected at this point. The banana zone point in the cycle has had less liquidity. I only really found this out over the summer when I redid the maths on all of this and realized, okay, wow, they've actually changed the structure of liquidity.
All right, so if you know anything about Roll Powell, again, he was the guy who, he's been around multiple bull markets, but he was the main one pushing the M2. So M2 depegs, he then switches to this new ISM, which is why I don't really buy his theory of going into like Q4 2026. But maybe Tom Lee can change Crux's mind. Let's see.
Has historically been associated with actually super cycle moves in Bitcoin and Ethereum.
You hear people saying QE is coming, the liquidity is coming, buy Bitcoin or buy whatever crypto asset or buy stocks because this is coming. So it's important to know whether it's coming or not.
Comes from the banks, though.
Yeah,
fair.
But yeah, in the crypto world, QT was draining liquidity. So the ending of QT is essentially QE, because if they're just holding the balance sheet flat, they are still going to be essentially adding liquidity to the system.
Just to maintain the size.
Yes, and so that is why I think crypto prices have risen in anticipation of this meeting.
So do crypto...
All right, so let's go ahead and... There's a lot to unpack. First of all, y'all give me your takes on how you feel like QT/QE affects the price of Bitcoin in particular, but I'm going to give my take right now. So 60-40, I've said this since October that we are in a bear winter. I'm 60% confident that we are going down and right as opposed to up and right. I'm 40% confident. What would change Crux's mind is if we go into 2025 or 2026 rather, above 100K Bitcoin. So, and that can happen overnight. Trust me. We can go from 93 to 100K in a single 24-hour period. So I'm not completely done with the 4-year cycle still being intact. So that's something to consider. Now, I will say with kind of how everything has worked with quantitative easing, which is starting to happen, it's it to me it's not a massive influence on the crypto markets. And I know it sounds weird. Uh, the way that it's affected gold and silver are one thing. The way it's affected the Nasdaq and most of these other stocks, it's another thing. But what I still see crypto is still on this 4-year cycle, regardless. So the halving event every 210,000 blocks has been very prominent. It's coded in the network, and that's why I believe that we're starting to have this sell-off. And I've done the math. About 65% of the Bitcoin belongs to retail, and that includes about the 3 million that are lost all forever. And then you got the 18% from the institutions. So that's why I think it's going to take at least another cycle or maybe even 2 cycles before we really break this trend. So that's my take on the 4-year cycle. I think it's very important to understand what you think about it going into, are you going to continue to hold your tokens and possibly round trip? And what I will tell you is have a plan of action for either direction. If we go up and right, I have my portfolio filled. If I go down and right, I have some dry powder ready to buy the dips. So you don't have to be all in or out, all out, but you need to analyze this stuff and have a set plan. So let's go ahead and look at some of y'all's responses to what I just went over. I feel that we will be over 100K Bitcoin by the end of year, says Aaron. I wouldn't be surprised. I'll be honest. I would not be surprised at all. I think that'd bring me closer to about a 50-50, though. It would not make me go towards the 4-year cycle's broken. I would be about 50-50 as opposed to 60-40. So alts will hurt, though, says Aaron. Yeah. So right now we're just trying to figure out what's Bitcoin going to do, and then alts can pump later. Late to the party. Yo, Crux is Cat in the Hat. What up, Cat in the Hat? You came right in the right time. We started talking about the 4-year cycles, which is the conversation you guys all love to talk about. Wrong Again says crypto is for everyone, and I agree. Crypto is a monetary network that's global. And the best part about it is it's decentralized. No central authority holds the keys or the power to your network. 2020, 2021, the Dems tried to kill crypto. Mostly Dems, some Republicans too. Yeah, it was mostly Dems, but we survived. And we haven't really hit escape velocity yet. And I'll be honest with you, some of the stuff, it could be the Republicans are setting the framework for what could be a CBDC. So Brooke said it here first. I know we got the digital asset stockpile. We have an AI crypto czar and David Sachs. We have a crypto task force. We have some stuff going on that showing that we want diversification from what a CBDC would be, which is actual cryptocurrencies that we control for the people. But I don't know. I mean, the regulations are being set, especially focused on with like the Genius and the Clarity Act with stablecoins. And there's nothing more similar to a CBDC than a stablecoin, which is, again, what is the regulation is currently focused on. So, Daniel, I am 51 and 49. I do not got any more money because I bought the dip. Okay, so you're about 51% probable that we go into a bear winter, I believe, and then 49% that we are up and right from here. So you're about 50-50 essentially. You just a little bit towards the bearish is what I see from that. Mike Jr., until we break 105 and flip it to support, we can't even talk about another all-time high. I agree. Sometimes you gotta, well, I will say this. The further out in crypto you plan, the better you do, because all the near-term stuff from a tariff to a Japan carry trade 2.0 to all these things, they influence you on the near term. So as a trader, it's good to know. As an investor, if you invest accordance with the 4-year cycle, you do much better. So, but whenever you're talking about 105K as a trader, that's smart. I would wait for that before you make another decision, but also have a price target to the downside. What if we go down from here? What if we go back to 83K? What is your move from there? Ricky says, thoughts on Tau halving event, pump or dump? I talked about Tau a little bit here. It halves on the 14th, if I'm not mistaken, so we're about 3 days away. Same emissions as Bitcoin. buy the rumor, sell the news is typically how Bitcoin works. Even this last bull, even 2024 was the same thing. So Bitcoin hit an all-time high prior to the halving, but still, at the halving, it sold off. Went from about 73K all the way down to 53K after the halving. So Q2 going into Q3 last year was unbearable. I hated it. But it was part of our journey. So sometimes you got to embrace the suck and it will turn you into a legend. Because if you went into Q4 last year holding some of those altcoins or even Bitcoin, it would have, you would have been rewarded for it. So don't sell when it's down, sell when it's up, and vice versa. Buy when it's down. Derek says no black swans in 2026 election year. I would definitely beg to disagree. Every year we have a black swan event, and honestly, black swans are supposed to happen once in a lifetime. So these things are getting way too much credit. Japan carry trade, I would consider that a black swan event. COVID, that was a black swan event. And every single year, there's a black swan event. Now, I mean, like an Iran-Israel situation, that's not really black swan because it just happens. I mean, it's happened for hundreds of years, actually thousands of years, technically. So that's something to consider is sometimes you can get ahead of them and sometimes you just fall in the years of just bad luck. So I don't throw every bad piece of news at a black swan event. But then even, so Tim, he talked about a golden swan. So this is the exact opposite of a black swan. We don't give these credit. And again, you probably haven't heard the phrase gold swan, but there's a possibility that some major event happens. I don't know. And then it sends us up and right. So Rongayat says 2026, nobody will talk about the 4-year cycles anymore. Well, it depends. If we're not above 100K, like let's say we go back to 83K, going into like Q1 of next year, I think the 4-year cycle is definitely going to still be talked about. If we go up and right, let's say we go back up to like by the end of Q1, we're at 126K. We hit an all-time high going into March of next year. We will all consider the 4-year cycle broken. And at that point, treat it as gold. It goes up and right forever. And stop buying meme coins. So meme coins are cool because you know when to sell. Q4 the year after Bitcoin's having offload. But Bitcoin, Solana, XRP, Cardano, Dogecoin, this coin, that coin. There's a lot of coins that are worth holding in an up and right forever market. But if you're outside the top 100, I don't know if you're going to make it. Because I'll be honest. A lot of these cryptos, I just talked about some copy and paste cryptocurrencies out there. Stable, STABLE is the ticker, is literally the same as STBL, which is another crypto I talked about, and they do the same thing. Same name, same thing. A lot of these are copy and paste. So you're only going to get some winners in this space. Not everything's going to win. Give us some Keeta talks, is Daniel. All right, Daniel. I mean, we're 40 minutes into this, and I haven't even covered half of my news yet. So with that being said, I'm going to drop some Keeta Alpha at the end of this live stream for you. So it might take about 20 minutes for me to get there, but I won't get there unless I start. So let's jump into some more
important part of
headlines.
Robinhood's growth story. What are your thoughts on adopting Bitcoin or other digital assets as part of your corporate treasury strategy?
Shiv, what do you think about that one?
So we spent a lot of time thinking about this. We like alignment with the community. We are a big player in crypto. We want to keep doing it. We like that our customers are engaged in it. What we always try to figure out is it the right thing for shareholders as well? If you put it on your balance sheet, it has the positives and that you're aligned with the community, but it does take up capital. Our shareholders can also go and buy Bitcoin directly on Robinhood, and so are we making that decision for them? And is it the best use of our capital? There's a lot of different things you're doing, from new products for growth, investing in engineering. So we have this debate constantly, and I think the short answer is we're still thinking about it. There's pros and cons to both of it, and it's one that we're going to keep actively looking at.
All right, so that is one of the head of Robinhood, which is one of the biggest companies in the traditional markets at this point. And as you can see right here, I posted about this, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was today. So real institutional buys begin within the next few years. We spent this cycle preparing for the regulatory front. HODL, it is almost time. So Robinhood, they're a massive company, and we're starting to debate, are these companies going to throw Bitcoin on its balance sheet? So Right now, they're offering the products. There's a couple companies like a MicroStrategy sitting at like number 250 in the world in market cap, and they are the biggest other than the Tesla with Bitcoin on its balance sheet. So I need to see the real institutions come in. I need to see Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Disney. Disney just put $1 billion partnership into OpenAI. But when is Bitcoin going to get its time to shine? So Robinhood, they are disruptors in the space. So it's cool to see them possibly, they're considering it. So this is what it takes to break the 4-year cycle, or institutions. All right, moving on. We got an OG Bitcoiner slowly selling institution. Oh, okay. So OG Bitcoiners slowly sell institutions over time like a drip to a faucet. So this is me breaking down the math. Currently, the institutions hit about 18% of the Bitcoin, while retail's about 65%. So using my math, I do about 8 years for this percentage to be flipped, where retail now has 18%. And this includes the Satoshis, the U's, the me's. And then the institutions will have about 65%. We're talking Franklin Templeton, JP Morgan. And at that point in the 8 years, I think, the Netflixes of the world and all the big companies are going to have some sort of Bitcoin exposure, because I think it's the new monetary network. So, but what it takes for this to happen, these whales are slowly selling. So this guy here, we're talking about a decade of dormancy finally waking up, and the institutions are going to be the bag holders. So, all right, moving on. I hinted at it a little bit earlier, but we got the infamous mid-October whale who created the biggest liquidation event of all time in crypto or digital ledgers, and he is back. So let's go ahead and look at what this says. The $10 billion Hyperunit whale is now long $440 million worth of ETH. The Hyperunit whale, who made $200 million off the largest liquidation event in crypto history, the 1010 market crash, is now long over $400 million of ETH. I mean, they just resaid that, but he's been buying the past 4 days and is currently break even on his position. So I did a breakdown on my channel about this. I do personally think that this is not only a White House insider, but a Binance insider, because they had to understand how the Oracle system worked for Binance that allowed the depegging of Athena, Sol, and some of their Binance specific projects. So it wasn't native. It wasn't like native Sol or native Athena. It was the Binance tokenized variants of them that got smoked. And they understood how the Oracle controlled the price, or aggregated the price on those assets. And they sent the world, the crypto world, into a spiral that day. So this guy, he's back, he's long, and swim with the whales is what I like to say. All right, let's do a couple more articles, and we're going to jump back into some Q&A. Here's a pretty cool one about, typically I don't cover too much macroeconomics on here, but, or just gold and silver in particular, rather. China's official gold reserves rose 30,000 troy ounces in November to a record 2,305 tons. This marks their 13th consecutive monthly purchase. So China is accumulating gold. They were accumulating Bitcoin. They kind of stopped. As a result, China's gold reserves are now up to a record $311 billion. This represents about 9% of the country's total official reserves. China's gold reserves have tripled since 2020. So we know Donald Trump, he's pushing for crypto exposure. Xi Jinping has not been very vocal about acquiring more Bitcoin, but China has been very vocal about acquiring more gold. So I think going forward, I mean, the United States, as of what I know and what's reported, is the biggest company in the country in the world with gold holdings in Fort Knox. But I would not be surprised if China holds more gold than the United States. We just don't know about it. And also the same with Bitcoin. So currently, China holds about 100,000 Bitcoin, depending on if we seize that 80,000 from illicit activity like 2 weeks ago. And you're comparing about 100,000 Bitcoin from China to the United States 450,000 Bitcoin. So the China and international reserves are starting to be watched. They are acquiring gold. So I don't think it's bad to buy gold even at these prices. It would have been better a year or two ago, but it's not the end of the world if you buy some gold now and it goes down and right as risk markets start to heat up. So as the value of the dollar goes down, as it becomes cheaper to borrow money, I could expect risk assets to go up while gold goes down. So I just think it's fine to diversify into it. And then I'll save the next couple talks. It's going to be about a couple altcoins that I like to discuss on this channel. But I want to do a little Q&A first. Daniel, make sure you stick around for the next section. All right. I see a couple price targets there. Derek says, are you selling Ondo before January 18th? If you look at, all right, let's look at Ondo real quick. So come back over here. Boom. Ondo last January 18th, which it has a release every January 18th from now until like 2028, if I'm not mistaken, or 2029. So there's a couple more of them, and it releases a huge amount of the supply. And let's go back to 1 year ago. So as you can see, January, sitting about right here. So it's about $1.30 maybe, somewhere in there where my mouse is. And it has been down and right since. Now, I don't attribute this downwards price action mainly to these unlocks. I attribute it more towards crypto's downwards price action as a whole. But I would definitely consider that it is relevant. So the unlock, it doesn't happen all at once with Ondo. It happens across that entire year, but there is a cliff part of that unlock. And what cliff happens means, like, let's just say 5,000 tokens are going to get released across the next year. 3,000 of that 5,000 can get released on day one, and the other 2,000 can get released across the entirety of the next year. So there are parts of these unlocks that are cliff, so expect January to be very volatile, most likely to the downside for Ondo. And we will see if it recovers. Now, if crypto recovers, I expect this to recover, but if it doesn't, I don't know if Ondo is going to be able to survive a bear winter whenever it has this January 18th unlock, and then it's going to have the next one. So something else to consider. I'm still holding my Ondo, and I'm hoping for the best. So hope that answers your question there. Let's look at the next question. All right, Trump rugged this cycle, says Flipcoin. I mean, he's been very influential as a whole. Joe Biden, I would say, rugged last 2021. If you would have really paid attention to what he was doing, Elon Musk was rugging the cycle as well. So he would talk about ESG after Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. It's pretty rough. The biggest names in the world were all rugging crypto every time it hits a new all-time high. So I do not disagree with you, Flipcoin. Trump has rugged this bull market multiple times. I remember we hit a new all-time high, and then he talked about tariffs right after. He talked about 110% rise to China tariffs, literally days after we get all-time high. So he's been rugging us, and it sucks, but I don't know, maybe he's manipulating to keep the price low to acquire more. Lauren says Plume. I covered Plume last live stream. I'll tell you this. I would not be buying any. I looked at their TVL, and it's been going down very fast. So whatever assets are using to back their tokens, or sorry, whatever assets they own, I would be very, I don't know, it's going to be volatile, because at one point I want to say they're above like 500 million TVL, and they dropped like sub 300. So very volatile. Usually if you own real estate or gold, you don't lose like, what, 50% of your assets within a couple month period. So I don't know exactly what Plume is back in there, or what they control, but it's definitely gonna be volatile. Wouldn't be surprised if it's tokenized commodities. All right, so Bitcoin has gotten political. Robinhood is being careful. That's true. I like Vlad a lot. I like what Robinhood's doing, and I actually trust them. I think they're doing a good job. The Hyperunit, okay, the Hyperunit was the black swan of the 2025 year. Yes, I would consider the Hyperunit whale. Well, yes. So this is tough, because October, November was supposed to be the peak in accordance with Bitcoin's 4-year cycle, or 3 years, 10 months. It would have lined up perfectly. So you could have technically known that an event was going to happen, which does negate the ability of a black swan. But the way that it happened, it was just so, like, it was clean. It was careful. It was studious. Like this guy, he knew exactly what he's doing, and he wanted blood, and that he came for it. So, and he's still going after it. He's still going after it. Bet on America, says Mike Jr. I mean, I think we live in the best country in the world. I'll not be lying about that. Thoughts on American BTC stock? It crashed, but I love buying red and bullish on Trump brothers. Ricky, I'm not a big fan at all when it comes to not only the Trump brothers, but Donald Trump and even Barron Trump. I don't think the richest 19-year-old in the world should not be known for creating something. Why did Vitalik Buterin create Ethereum? We have people that are incredibly smart. Vitalik was like 18 years old when he created Ethereum, but you got the richest 19-year-old in the world that hasn't created anything. He has insider access to information, I'll tell you that. So you just follow the whole Trump family and what they're doing with Melania token, with Trump token. One day before taking office, he dropped a meme token, pushed way past $10 billion in market cap, and has rugged since. And then also the creators of Melania, there's been a lot of, with Malay, etc., which was a separate meme token. There's been a lot of people looking into who created these tokens, who got all the capital. It just rubs me wrong. There's so much going wrong. USD1 is the only thing that I kind of agree with what's going on with the Trump family, but that's it. It's bad. And even whenever I talked about the White House insider a couple minutes ago, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump knows who this hyperliquid whale is. So, all right. Mike says, and again, this is all speculation. I'm not telling anybody for certain. I'm just saying I try to connect the dots, and that's what I come up with. We went from 70 to 126 under Trump. How is that a rug? Says Mike. That's a good question. I think the 4-year cycle, regardless, is going to play out no matter who the president is. If you go look at Joe Biden whenever he was president, we would go down, and trust me, I know I'd lose like 6 figures in a single day because he would tweet some dumb stuff, and then it'd go back up like across the next 36 hours. It was just way more volatile last bull market, but just because crypto continues to do well doesn't mean he's not trying to rug it. So I honestly don't know what his intentions are because he's personally involved. If he wasn't personally involved, I would actually believe him, like when he's at the Bitcoin conference saying this is the monetary network of the world, etc. It's just he's made too much money. We have Eric Trump, who is now a billionaire, and all of these people, they're involved in crypto. So of course you're going to be bullish on it. All right. People took profits. We're still at 93K. Yep. Ondo took me to the woodshed, but I still bought the dip. All right, Daniel. Yeah, I mean, you're doing what I like to do. The lower it goes, I buy. But until we're in a confirmed bear market or bull market, I'm not buying anything. I will tell you, I'll be okay with buying Bitcoin like sub 126K if we break the 4-year cycle. Because if we break the 4-year cycle, in my mind, we're going to like $1 million by the end of the decade. So, all right, sold my plume back in the summer, says Aaron. Well, that's good. Mike says, I'm not going to read that one. We would be at 10K. You try to catch me slipping. I'm reading these comments. But yeah, 10K. No, I'll be honest. Crypto is going to win regardless of who's in office. This is a monetary network. It's global. And if the United States not going to carry the workload, then somebody else is. And as much as I love this country, it is not the end all. It really isn't. There's so much people that are against the US dollar collapsing. So whether I believe in the country or not, the US dollar is collapsing no matter who is in office. Trump, Biden, Harris, whoever. That dollar is going down and right. So I need Bitcoin. That is the solution. It doesn't matter. And that's the beautiful part of it. It's not centralized. These people do not control the end of it. Daniel says, Plume took me to, okay, I read that one. MJ says, do not bet against Trump, bro. I mean, I told people to stay away from WLFI the day it launched, and we can go look up the ticker. I told people to stay away from Trump token the day it launched, and we can go look at the ticker. I'm just saying, there's nothing that Trump has touched in crypto and has thrived. I don't have to say it again. You can read the charts if you don't believe me. And I'm not saying this from a political perspective because there's a lot of things I do agree with him on in terms of like just looking at the world. But in terms of crypto in particular, um, there's just too much of an influence on your own bags for me to really believe what you're doing. Daniel says, I'm buying for the relief rally. All right, so let's get into this last segment of news. I know, Daniel, you've been sticking around for this piece. First, I'm going to go into Kaspa, and then I'll go into some Keeta. So quick little rundown. We got an update on the Kaspa roadmap. So if you hold some Kaspa, throw K's in chat. This is my favorite project in all of crypto. And this is why. So the Crescendo hard fork dropped earlier last year, pushed it from 1 block to 10 blocks per second. We now are pushing towards a high definition proof of work through DAG-Knight. This should bleed into Q1 20. Well, actually, to be fair, 100 blocks per second is not going to be achievable until at earliest, late next year. So DAG-Knight is how we get there, and that's saying Q3 2026. That's probably going to push us closer to 30 to 100 blocks per second, which is going to significantly increase the throughput. Then we got vProgs, which are essentially verifiable programs that happen off the blockchain. This is revolutionary technology. Think something similar to smart contracts. And we also have a scaling solution in Agro Labs that's going to be launching Q1. We got an oracle that's being created to be able to combat, the chain links and the piths of the world. And we have so much more coming down the roadmap. So I love to see it. We are still building over here at Kaspa. And then another token I'm bullish on is Keeta. So dropped a couple different, I think 3 different videos maybe on this one. They haven't done anything revolutionary as of the past couple months, so I haven't created too much more content on there. But here's a pretty brief update. We're excited to announce the Bridge stablecoin is now live as a first fiat anchor on the Keeta network. So I could have sworn that the first fiat anchor was AUSD, which is Agora's stablecoin. So I need to look more into that one. But we have another stablecoin that is anchored to the Keeta network. Think of Keeta similar to an XRP. They're looking to really partner with the banks, and essentially they're looking to allow you to use your Visa, or let's just say a debit card, and spend your crypto holdings without the need of a bank. So it's super interesting in terms of how do you partner with the bank but you don't use them. Keeta is looking to solve this. So I like this project as a whole, and the bridge enables seamless movement between fiat and stablecoins, allowing users to deposit or withdraw directly to and from their bank accounts with speed and reliability. So essentially, you could still use a bank, but you're not going to get hit with the main 3% fees, which is really why crypto was created. I mean, it's a byproduct of why crypto was created. I'd say the number one reason crypto was created is we need peer-to-peer networks that are not controlled by centralized entities. But the second part is we need to get rid of the banks. And the banks are here because of that 3% also for loans and stuff like that, which is replaced by DeFi. So crypto is smoking the banks right now. And now all the banks like a JP Morgan are wanting to get involved with crypto assets. So Keeta, I think, is going to be down the pipeline. It has potential. And that's what I'm looking at. All right, a couple more things. Near versus ICP. I have never done any ICP content on this channel, nor Near. So these are 2 projects that I have not covered in its own deep dive. And I think it's fair if I do them both at the same time. So a lot of people ask me Caffeine, the app on ICP. They ask me about the canisters and how data throughput works for ICP and how scalable it is. People are talking to me, what about Near? The price action hasn't been the best. We have all these AI competitors. How is it a layer 1 AI play? And I'm here to break it down for you. So this video will probably drop late next week. I have the MicroStrategies video. It drops tomorrow. I go on a business meeting. I'm not going to say where, but I'll be out of town this weekend going into next week. But we got a ton of stuff planned for you guys, by the way. And I'll bring this video to you after next week. And then lastly, I got to get my pitch. So we got some gym hunters in there. First of all, the essentials. We also got some pro traders in here. Shout out Steve and Rufio and Silent. All you guys are the best. So the essentials, you guys are part of the VIP trading group. We have over 500 traders in there sharing trade setups and these types of things. The Academy is more for a rookie level person who can come in, watch tailored content that myself, Tim, and T-Shroom has created for you. It teaches you how to trade. It teaches how to build the perfect portfolio, and then also teaches about how to analyze macroeconomic conditions. T-Shroom is really good at that. And then Gem Hunters is a group that I control, and we look for those low cap gems before they send, essentially. In a bear market, be careful with gems. Most of these will go to zero, so that's something to consider. But if we are in a bull market, I'm telling you, these things fly. So think about it. I mean, we have our links in the description below to help support this channel, and I appreciate you guys for sticking around. It's an hour past the start of the segment, so let's read a couple last questions, and then we'll go ahead and roll this out. We got some K's in chat. Let's go. Cat in the Hat, I see you. Daniel, what up? Carl, I see the K's in chat. Represent, got a jet, great show. Crux, wrong again, he's one of the pro traders. MP, sorry, just arrived now. MP, man, you got 10 push-ups you got to do, and then you can watch the rest of my content. That's how we're going to do it. If you're late, put in the work. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's a militarism, by the way. I was in the Army, and if you're late to anything, start pushing. All right. Great show, says MP. Yeah, thank you. And then be safe. All right. Late to ask, Meteora. All right. MP, you get the last one. Keeta video next week, says Mike. All right. A ton of questions coming in. Mike, we will not have a Keeta video next week, unfortunately, but I have been talking with Cade, and we're going to create some crypto content. So he's another content creator. We both cover Kaspa. We cover Keeta. We cover a lot of similar projects, even ICP. I'll probably ask some of his data on that, making my video. So maybe we make a collab on Keeta. That would be pretty fun. All right, and then Meteora. That's going to be a decentralized exchange built on Solana. And I'll be honest with the MP, I'm not even going to look at the chart on this one. Solana is a hub of disappointment. And I know that sounds weird. So Solana is a solid layer 1 blockchain. But what happens with Solana is you invest into Radium, it does well, and then they drop some new, like Jupiter, okay, airdrop, that's cool, boom. All right, and then Pump.fun starts stealing some liquidity from the meme community, and then you get a Let's Bonk.fun, and all these ecosystems start like competing with each other, and now Solana is like, where do I put my money? You know, is it Radium? Is it... They're creating a perp dex called Percolator. And I'm pretty sure Anatoly Yakovenko signed off on it. So at this point, I don't know. Like Meteora, it's going to be a high risk. And it's only because just like all the L2s compete with Ethereum, we're starting to see Solana's ecosystem start competing amongst itself. It's a hub of opportunity, but it's also a hub of disappointment. I think that's the best way to phrase that. I was listening, bro. Just cannot type. Oh, okay. MP. Yes, you don't have to do the push-ups. Mike is saying send it. What up, Mike? All right. More cast content, please. Dung, I did cover some cast. If you're just now showing up, look. Just for you, I talked about the Kaspa roadmap, and I broke it down. Now, in my 2 different Kaspa videos, I dropped one that just hit like 2,000 views. I dropped another one that's about to hit 5,000 views. So I don't want to just push Kaspa on you guys, but maybe one of every 5 videos. I don't think that's overdoing it. One of every 5 videos, so that's once every 3 to 4 weeks, I drop a Kaspa video. Maybe that works. All right, so I don't think there's any more questions. Still haven't bought Kaspa, still contemplating. Maybe throw a couple grand at it, maybe. Right, Mike. I mean, think of it like this. Kaspa was at 22 cents. And now it's at fractions of that. So if you buy now, I mean, it's already down quite a bit. Why not? Goated, says Jung, and I agree. Well, you guys have a blessed day. Stay safe, and I'll catch you on, it's actually be Thursday. So in a week from today, I'll be back. Tuesday, I'll still be out of town on our business meeting. So stay tuned for that MicroStrategy